108,000 people. That's smaller than many cities around the world. Yet, this tiny island nation holds the most powerful passport in Africa. A citizen of Seychelles can travel to over 150 countries without a visa. Now, consider Nigeria. More than 240 million people, one of Africa's largest economies. Visa-free access, fewer than 50 countries. So how did one of the smallest nations on Earth outperform a continental giant? The answer has very little to do with size, and everything to do with strategy. But what makes this story even more surprising? Seychelles doesn't just outperform large African nations, it ranks ahead of several countries with far bigger economies. So what exactly are they doing different? Before we talk about how Seychelles did it, you need to understand the country we're actually talking about. Seychelles is 115 islands in the Indian Ocean, east of Kenya. Total land area, 459 square kilometers. That's about 60% the size of New York City. Population, 108,000 people, though they control an exclusive economic zone of 1.3 million square kilometers of ocean, larger than South Africa. They gained independence from Britain in 1976. For most of their modern history, they survived on fishing and tourism. That's it. Not oil, not diamonds, not rare earth minerals, but just beaches, coral reefs, and an economy heavily dependent on foreign visitors. They have two massive industries. Tourism, accounting for about 70% of hard currency earnings, and industrial fishing. The Indian Ocean Tuna Factory in Victoria is one of the largest tuna canneries in the world, and yet, by every traditional measure of geopolitical power, military size, economic scale, population, Seychelles should be a footnote on the global stage. Instead, their passport ranks 24th in the world, ahead of Poland, ahead of Hungary, ahead of every single African nation. 156 countries, visa-free access, ranked 24th globally. Number 1 in Africa for over 5 consecutive years. Mauritius, second in Africa, manages 148 countries. South Africa gets 110. Nigeria gets just 44. Now, how did Seychelles pull this off? In the early 2000s, Seychelles leadership made a strategic decision. They looked at their assets and realized something. They couldn't compete on military strength. They couldn't compete on economic size. They couldn't leverage natural resources they didn't have. But they had one thing every country wants: tourists. Over 400,000 tourists visit Seychelles annually. That's nearly 4 times their entire population. High-end tourists, honeymooners, Europeans with disposable income, and Seychelles made those tourists something most countries don't offer: visa-free entry. Not visa on arrival, not e-visa, not complicated applications. Just land, show your passport, and welcome to Seychelles. Nearly every nationality on Earth could enter without bureaucratic barriers. This wasn't just hospitality, this was strategy. Here's how. When Seychelles sits down with, say, Israel, or the UAE, or Lebanon, they don't ask for a favor, they offer a trade. Your citizens can enter our country freely. We trust you, we welcome you, no questions asked. So here's the deal. Give our citizens the same access to your country. Mutual trust, reciprocal mobility. This is leverage. Most countries protect their borders asymmetrically. They demand visas from Africans while offering visa-free access to Europeans. One-way relationships. Seychelles flipped that script. In 2014, President James Michael visited Abu Dhabi. Foreign Minister Jean-Paul Adam sat down with UAE officials and signed a bilateral agreement. This resulted in Seychelles citizens being able to enter UAE visa-free for 90 days. In 2024, Israel signed a mutual visa waiver. Seychelles passports now had access to Israel freely. In return, Israelis continued to enjoying Seychelles beaches. Then came Lebanon. Ambassador Ian Madeline signed the agreement in New York at a UN mission, thus mutual exemption for all ordinary passports. With Egypt, a memorandum of understanding for official passports tied to African Union cooperation and economic partnership happened in 2025. Each agreement added destinations. Each destination moved Seychelles higher in global rankings. Now, here's a big one. Seychelles has no geopolitical baggage. They're not involved in regional conflicts, no disputed borders, no historical tensions, no colonization of neighbors. When Seychelles negotiates, they bring tourism, appeal, and stability. Nothing else. Compare that to Nigeria, with effects from Boko Haram, regional security concerns, a documented history of citizens overstaying in Western countries. When Nigeria asks for visa-free access, the receiving country sees risk. When Seychelles asks, they see opportunity. On the contrary, Nigeria's problem isn't ambition, it's scale. With over 240 million people, even a small percentage seeking opportunity abroad translates into large, absolute numbers. Overstay data, security concerns, and regional instability shape how Nigerian passports are evaluated, fairly or not. Western countries track overstay rates by nationality. When they see high numbers from a country, visa policies tighten. Nigeria has a documented history of citizens overstaying in the US, UK, and EU, not because Nigerians are bad people, but because economic incentives drive migration. When you have 240 million people with significant economic challenges, some will seek opportunities abroad. That creates risk perception. Seychelles doesn't have this problem. Their population is too small and too wealthy per capita to create migration pressure. Boko Haram, regional instability, security concerns in the northeast. These create a security perception that affects visa policy. Countries worry about terrorism links, even though the vast majority of Nigerians have nothing to do with extremism. Fair? No. Reality? Yes. Seychelles has zero security concerns, no terrorism, no regional conflicts, no international security red flags. Nigeria requires visas for most foreign visitors, complex application processes, high fees. They have no reciprocity leverage. When Nigeria asks Germany for visa-free access, Germany says, "You require visas from us. Why should we waive ours for you?" Seychelles doesn't have this problem. They've already given access. The negotiation starts from a position of generosity. Nigeria's foreign policy focuses on regional leadership through ECOWAS, oil markets, and economic partnerships. Passport mobility, not a priority. Nigeria negotiates from a position of risk management, not reciprocity. Seychelles negotiates from trust surplus. That difference explains almost everything. Passport power is negotiation. Seychelles offered something: reciprocal access, tourism appeal, zero risk. Nigeria arrived with requests and baggage. Understanding the game matters more than the size of your economy. Visa policy is risk management. When Europeans officials assess Seychelles, they see stability, wealth per capita, and educated citizens who return home. With Nigeria, they see migration pressure and security concerns, regardless of whether those fears are fair. Seychelles opened their borders first, built goodwill, then negotiated from a position where refusing reciprocity felt unfair. Most countries do the opposite, demand access while restricting entry. That's the wrong sequence. Seychelles didn't achieve all this through diplomatic tricks, but rather through building something that they knew they would contribute to their development massively. They created economic stability. They built functioning institutions. They developed their human capital, 90% literacy, universal healthcare, quality education. Most importantly, they created conditions where their citizens don't need to flee for opportunities. When your people are educated, employed, and hopeful about the future, they become ambassadors, not migrants. They travel and return. They invest at home. They represent your country well abroad. Not just negotiating visa waivers, but creating environments where young people can find meaningful work, entrepreneurs can build businesses, families feel secure, citizens see a future worth staying for. Nigeria has over 240 million people. Imagine if even 10% of that population had the same opportunities Seychelles citizens have. Imagine the innovation, the productivity, the global influence. The passport rankings would fix themselves. In a world that often equates power with population and wealth, Seychelles offers a quiet reminder. Strategy can outweigh scale. Reputation can open doors that size alone cannot. and sometimes the smallest nations make the smartest moves. What do you think matters more for global mobility? Diplomatic negotiation, or building a country people believe in? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe for more global documentaries that break down the forces shaping our world, and we'll see you in the next one.